Previously on Land of the Free.
Tonight, dramatic new video of that dangerous mission to seize Maduro that injured U.S. helicopter pilots. Explosions lighting up the hillside around Maduro's heavily fortified compound in Caracas.
Wow.
As U.S. warplanes blasted Venezuelan air defenses early Saturday morning. U.S. forces knocking out power to parts of the city, allowing them to move in total darkness. A dozen U.S. Special Operations helicopters flying just 100 feet above the ground, moving in over the compound, firing miniguns and rockets. A U.S. helicopter was struck during the operation, President Trump saying pilots were injured and bleeding, but continued the mission. The Army's elite Delta Force team moving in. They had built an exact replica of Maduro's compound and practiced the raid for months. A covert CIA team tracking Maduro's every move right down to what he ate. Those special operations forces coming under heavy gunfire by Maduro's security, grabbing Maduro and his wife as they headed for a safe room moments before they could close a steel door behind them. Cuba saying 32 Cubans were killed before U.S. forces rushed Maduro and his wife into the helicopters, flying them out to a ship at sea.
Okay, at this point, everybody knows that America conducted major military operations over in Venezuela last week. The U.S. conducted strikes, President Nicolás Maduro was captured, and now the administration controls the Venezuelan oil exports. Some people call this a move for freedom.
The bottom line is we now have freedom in Venezuela.
I have so many Venezuelan friends. They are crying tears of joy.
This is their first real opportunity to experience democracy and freedom.
Other people call this a fight against drug narco-terrorists. Some people call this regime change. Others call this an illegal operation altogether. And yes, all of these answers depend on just who you ask. You hear people say this was about liberating the Venezuelan people from a tyrant.
Listen, people smell freedom in the air.
This was about fighting drugs. And sure, all of that sounds and feels good. But if this was really about getting rid of drugs, why bypass Congress? Why bypass NATO? Why not build a coalition? Why not apply stronger diplomatic pressure? Because remember, the United States always likes to do things the right way until it doesn't. We love being the shining city on the hill until we're not. Now let's check out some more from Ronny Chieng that was comedically pointing out how obvious the oil motivation looks in this whole thing. He noted how Maduro's been accused from everything from being a drug kingpin to a dictator, and somehow that's giving the United States rights to the Venezuelan oil sales.
Listen, people smell freedom in the air, and they can thank Donald J. Trump.
That's right, Trump is stinking up the joint with freedom. Can you smell it? It's just crop dusting our hemisphere of democracy. Breathe it in, people. Finally, the Venezuelan people are in charge of their own destiny. Let's see exactly what kind of freedom they have won.
President Donald Trump announced that Venezuela will be giving the U.S. 30 to 50 million barrels of oil to be sold.
This oil will be sold at its market price, and that money will be controlled by me as President of the United States of America.
Now, very quickly, let's check out some reactions from some various ladies on the right. The View's Ana Navarro responds to Donald Trump's Venezuela takeover. All right. Let's skip down here a little bit so we know who she is. Let's skip down to where it says after. All right. After the news broke, Navarro, who was born in Nicaragua, took to Instagram before Donald Trump's news conference to share her support while acknowledging critics' concern. Today, for me, is a good day because Maduro is out, she shared in a video to her followers. He's a son of a bizzle, and I hope this is a message to other sons of bizzles in the region. You may disagree with how he did it, but it's done. There's no other way it was going to end any other way. Wow, all right? However, Navarro also pointed out, yeah, he did it without congressional authorization. This was an act of war, all the things, but it's done. I don't think it escalates from here because the objective was to get Maduro out. And certainly there was an oil component. And certainly there's a lot of Trump ego in this, being able to do it. But it's done.
Here now exclusively, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, a combat veteran and 2020 Democratic presidential candidate. What's your reaction to that? You heard Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president there.
What we are hearing is an increased saber-rattling intention, saying the United States needs to send in the U.S. military now to wage yet another wasteful, counterproductive regime change war. And once again, it's being done under the guise of humanitarianism. When we look throughout history, every time the United States goes into another country and topples a dictator or topples a government, the outcome has been disastrous for the people in these countries.
Sick and tired, MTG calls Venezuela strike betrayal of MAGA. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, representative of Georgia, blasted President Donald Trump's attack on Venezuela and removal of its leader, President Nicolás Maduro, describing it as a sharp departure from his America First campaign promise. Greene, who earlier this year had a public fallout with Trump, criticized the military move as unaligned with Trump's vow of the 2024 presidential election to end United States involvement in foreign conflicts. While Greene said she didn't support Maduro's leadership and was happy for the people of Venezuela, she expressed doubt that Maduro's capture was related to narco-terrorism and the flow of drugs, as Trump has suggested. Speaking to NBC's Meet the Press, Greene argued if Trump cared about drug trafficking, he'd be focused on other entities, including Mexican cartels. This is the same Washington playbook we are so sick and tired of and doesn't serve the American people. This actually serves big corporations, the banks, and oil executives, Greene said on Meet the Press. My understanding of America's First is strictly for the American people. And these aren't leftist voices. These are various women in the same party, in the same Republican Party, that have various opinions about this same attack. This just goes to show how torn most Americans are about this topic. Meanwhile, Wall Street is pretty blah about it. Aside from a little uptick with Chevron, they just been going on as business as usual.
Not much impact, I think, and I think that's why the market is so quote unquote shrugging it off. This situation, at least as given what we know today, not a big impact on company fundamentals. Venezuela, not a big part of the global economy. And yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Does this change your thinking, John, on geopolitical surprises? If we were having this conversation a week ago, while Venezuela has been in a period of unrest, I don't think many thought they would have seen the actions that we saw over the weekend. Does this change your thinking around the midterm elections or other things that are on the political docket this year?
Well, I mean, I guess at the margin, and again, it's so early, we don't know how this situation is going to unfold, but at the margin, it probably sets a bad precedent in terms of, larger global powers encroaching on smaller neighbors.
Now, let's talk economics, because this is where it gets real. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves on Earth, and now the United States controls production and exports indefinitely, according to reports. So ask yourself, was this a drug war? Or was it about securing energy and economic leverage? And while a oil windfall may have been gained, what about the debt?
Fall of Venezuela's Maduro has brought renewed attention to the country's long-running debt crisis. It is one of the largest unresolved sovereign defaults in the world. Venezuela defaulted in late 2017 after missing payments on international bonds issued by the government. State oil company PDVSA also holds significant external debt. Years of economic collapse and US sanctions have already cut the country off from global capital markets. Since then, unpaid principal, accumulated interest and legal claims, they have dramatically increased the country's liabilities. Analysts estimate that Venezuela has about $60 billion in defaulted bonds when PDVSA debt, bilateral loans, arbitration awards are included. Total external obligations rise to roughly $150 to $170 billion, with nominal GDP estimated at $82.8 billion in 2025. Venezuela's debt to GDP ratio stands near 200%.
What happens to the debt now? Will the U.S. absorb it? Will the Venezuelan economy collapse? Or will U.S. companies profit from rebuilding the oil infrastructure? These are huge financial dominoes that aren't getting talked about enough. Speaking of not getting talked about enough, then we have the big beautiful bill. You know, the massive spending that benefits the wealthy in the markets while leaving basic social services unfunded, healthcare shortages, infrastructure gaps. What was really that beautiful about it? And if the US really needed cash, which it looks like we did because of the ballooning deficit that the big beautiful bill caused, instead of fixing our own economy, did we just go on an oil heist? That's something to think about. And what about the timing of this whole thing? It was rumored that the Delta team and the planning of this operation had been ready for months. So why now? Why did they decide to do the operation right after a big treasure trove of Epstein files had been leaked? Was this coincidence or just convenient timing to distract and control the narrative? And I really want to know what you guys think, because you guys are seeing this unfold just like I am. So, was the strike good? Was the strike bad? I mean, it's good if you believe in removing dictators and fighting narco-terrorists. It's bad if you believe in international law, sovereignty, and transparent motives. It's complicated if you think it's all about oil, economy, power, and a distraction. But one thing is clear. This was not done the way the US normally does things. Congress was not fully on board, NATO wasn't involved, and international law experts say it could have been illegal. And that matters. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment. Was it a good move? Was it a bad move? Or was it, yes, all of the above? Until next time, everybody, peace and stay informed.